right here, this is where the world and social media and everybody else starts to try to divide us and tell us that we're not good enough.
The Owls do need to be better this coming Saturday as they prepare to take on their second straight Florida acronym, this time at home. But we're not quite ready to turn the page on last week's trip to South Florida.
Reporting from Raymond James Stadium in sunny Tampa Bay, Florida, we have a look inside of Temple's Week 7 matchup against USF. OwlSports Update is live, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome back to OwlSports Update. I'm Sage Hurley and he's Josh Safran. It may still be All Hallows Eve, but we're still in the spooky spirit.
And we're not the only ones. Temple Athletics looked frightful since the last edition of OwlSports Update, going winless. 0-8 since last Thursday in total, and that includes a road trip to Florida worth forgetting. After spending last weekend in Tampa Bay versus USF, the Owls are back in Philly, but they still have Florida on the brain. This time looking to get their first victory in 5 years against the UCF Golden Knights. Big news for the Owls as UCF starting quarterback Dylan Gabriel is still out with a broken clavicle.
The Owls have a haunting past in their matchups against the Golden Knights. UCF is 6-2 all-time against Temple, and they have won the last 4 by a lot. Though this is undoubtedly UCF's roughest season in the past few years from what we've seen so far, Temple's odds to win against this team are looking scary. The Owls are riding a 2-game losing streak and they are double-digit underdogs at home.
We just put it on film that, for the last couple of weeks that people can run it on us, and we have to get that stopped.
Same thing from USF, but even better. They have a big back and they have a little scat back. 25. They're both good backs. We just have to play more physical.
After the game, we've come together like, hey, yo, that's not acceptable. You know, we have a certain standard for Temple toughness, and we gotta hold up to it and really keep it going for generations. Because this is forever. We try to keep this going forever.
This time, the Owls will meet UCF just a few hours before Mischief Night at noon at the Link. So tune in to ESPN Plus or check out our Twitter handle at OwlSports Update for live updates.
Let's go about 100 miles southwest of UCF, where the Owls took on USF last week. Picked things up in the second quarter. Bulls already up 7-0. Make that 14-0 as DeMarcus Gregory is left alone in the end zone. On the very next offensive play, Juwan Mathis say hello to the graduate and say bye-bye to the USF secondary. Randall Jones torches the defense for a 70-yard touchdown, and the Owls start the second half with a bang. Edward Sadie powers in for a touchdown to cut USF's lead down to 3. But after that score, things go awry for the Owls. Juwan Mathis gets dropped behind the line by Antonio Greer, and USF simply ran all over the Owls to a tune of 421 yards, a school record for USF as they wind up winning easily 34-14.
You know what they say, Owls are everywhere, and that rang true this weekend. OwlSports Update's very own Cameron Schofield flew to Florida just to watch the Bulls run some more past the Owls at Raymond James Stadium.
The Owls had more than 2 weeks to prepare for their trip to Tampa. But from the start, they weren't ready in their loss to the USF Bulls, as the home team ran through, around, and right past the Owls all evening long. South Florida's running back rotation had a field day, rushing for a school record of 421 yards on the night.
They didn't do any trick plays. It wasn't any of that. It's simply just tackling. We didn't do that, and they just kept running the ball.
Almost 80% of South Florida's offensive snaps were designed runs, and those runs left Temple's defense worn out, on the field for nearly 75% of the game.
We just got beat bad.
That's the only way to put it. A lot of it was that we were getting off blocks.
Temple unable to stop South Florida's downhill run game was their biggest problem tonight, but their lack of offensive production didn't make it any better. Temple only had 9 first downs compared to USF's 35.
When things like that aren't going right, and you only get a certain amount of plays, and you're not executing every single play, you get to games like this and stuff goes wrong.
With the defense on the field most of the game, Mathis ran just 34 plays, 2 of which ended in interceptions.
See, right here, this is where the world and social media and everybody else starts to try to divide us and tell us that we're not good enough. You know, I just look at the positive from this. We can get better.
Any hopes of Temple righting the ship this season hinge on the team cleaning up its act in time for its next matchup against Central Florida at the Link this Saturday. From Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay, I'm Cameron Schofield, OwlSports Update.
It is a nightmare on Broad Street after last weekend's unsettling performance. Temple's run defense is trapped in the dungeon of the conference, allowing 222 yards on the ground per game. On the offensive side of the ball, the Owls are seeing ghosts. They rank last in rushing offense, 10th in total offense, and last in first down offense with only 111 on the season through 7 games. For context, SMU leads that category with 189 first downs. In recent years, there has been a focus on special teams. Once a strength of Temple football, special teams has struggled under Carey. We've seen things like a 6-yard punt and 3 different place kickers. But in 2021, special teams is once again looking special, at least in the kick game. It took 1 year for Rory Bell to be twice as good. At the start of this season, Bell's career-long field goal was 30 yards. Today, it's 55 after hitting the bend just behind the crossbar in Temple's game versus Cincy earlier this month.
Rory Bell.
I was by Coach Sabak, telling him, put me in, I'm going to hit it. I don't know what it was. It was just a feeling. I was back home and I was hyped up. And I knew it was going to go in.
So I've seen him hit those in practice, so it's good to finally get a payoff in the game.
At first glance, a jump this dramatic may be called a fluke. But this 55-yard kick is part of a consistent pattern for Bell. He hit a 45-yard kick against Wagner 2 weeks earlier, and he's 5 for 5 in field goals under 40 yards this season.
I think it's a matter of my stamina. I used to really overdo it last year. I was a freshman coming in, overhyped, trying to hit way too many kicks every day. Now I think it's just, I have it. I know that I have the leg strength and the skill, and it's just me putting my trust in myself and my technique.
Some people like to follow the same routes as the other people do, you feel me? So, I try giving Rory some tips that I thought were helpful to me. Just some mental stuff, man. Some visualization, really. That was one thing I pointed out that I thought was big for me.
And when the game is on the line, expect Rory to be nice and relaxed. Some players blast pump-up music before the game. Rory opts for a more mellow route.
I'll put my AirPods in on the bus ride there and listen to lo-fi music and kind of get in a cool, chill vibe. Every kick's the same, whether it's a game-winning kick or a practice kick.
Bell isn't the only special teams member who's taken stride since his freshman year. Punter Adam Berry has also had noticeable improvements since his year 1, pinning opponents inside the 20-yard line at least once in now 26 straight games and increasing his average punt distance by roughly 7 yards.
We're up against our first break of the day, but stay tuned.
Earlier this year, we told you about a few teams leaving the American Athletic Conference. This past week, it was announced 6 teams will be joining the AAC. Find out who's joining the American after the break.
Welcome back. Yet another child has joined a Temple athletic team through Team Impact. The newest Diamond Gem, Siani, sported a pair of pom-poms and hung out with Hooter at her signing day with the dance team last weekend. Team Impact is an organization that pairs children with serious and chronic illnesses to college programs. And now the Diamond Gems are the 5th Temple team currently involved. Let's move from new faces to new logos. There are some major changes coming to the AAC.
Earlier this season, it was announced that Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati will be leaving the conference. These departures left the door wide open for some mid-major programs to take a step up and join what Commissioner Mike Oresco refers to as a Power 6 conference. All 6 of these programs will be coming from Conference USA, the same jump that Memphis, Houston, Tulane, Tulsa, ECU, UCF, and SMU all made. While USF didn't make a direct jump from Conference USA, they also were a CUSA member back in 2004. Once his move is complete, Temple and Wichita State will be the only schools in the conference who weren't formerly in the CUSA. Is this the American Athletic Conference or simply CUSA 2.0?
These logos may look unfamiliar now, but these teams will be Temple's new conference foes soon enough. UAB, Rice, UTSA, Charlotte, North Texas, and Florida Atlantic will join the American to make a conference of 14. But I want to talk about UAB. This edition marks the revival of the Battle of the Bones football game between the Tigers and the Blazers. And I'm not talking skeletons. Fire up the grill. The game is a nod towards Birmingham and Memphis's reputation as elite barbecue destinations. The two teams will compete for the right to hoist an 100-pound bronze rack of ribs for the first time since Memphis left the CUSA in 2012.
While it's exciting for the conference to gain some fresh mascots, this may be a case of quantity over quality for the AAC. In the 21st century, these 6 schools have combined for 26 bowl game appearances, going 10-16 combined in those bowl games.
But don't forget about Texas San Antonio, though. Those Roadrunners just recently earned their very first top 25 ranking in football program history, landing at 23. The Owls have been only ranked that high twice since 1979.
We've strengthened our position in Texas enormously, and that's a very important state. Obviously, it's a football hotbed. You know, football drives so much of this. And every school came to us and said, we're willing to do what's necessary to invest. And that probably ruled out some schools that we certainly would have otherwise considered. They have a chance to really thrive in this conference, and that's the goal. You know, we're aspirational, and we, I think, have elevated brands in the past, and I think we'll do it again.
There is not a team on campus having a tougher time than men's soccer. The Owls came into Wednesday's rainy and windy road game with Memphis riding a 4-game losing streak. And in that time, Temple had scored only 2 goals. A monsoon in Memphis, but the elements aren't enough to keep either team off the scoreboard. Early in the first, a costly turnover by Marquez Antoine leads to an easy Memphis goal. That's Lineker Rodriguez dos Santos slipping and sliding in celebration. Later on in the second half, a chip played into Kyle Hellman finds the back of the net for the equalizer. Yet the tie doesn't last long. A ball thrown into the box catches the arm of freshman Alex O'Leary, setting up a Memphis penalty kick that gets buried by Arthur DeLuca. And that's the final goal of the match as Memphis takes care of business, barely edging out the Owls by a score of 2-1.
14 games, 3 goalies, 10 losses, and 26 total goals allowed so far this season. That's the stat sheet of Temple's 3-headed monster in the net, made up of Ian Goronski, Liam Cummings, and Goodwill Agbadim. After injuries from Goronski and Cummings left them benched, there are 2 games left, and the team is hoping that the third time's a charm with Agbadim now in the net.
The Owls will have their final home match against the Tulsa Golden Hurricane on Halloween, and the Owls will have to pull out some tricks if they want to give their supporters a treat. Tulsa is 11th ranked in the nation with 11 wins in 12 games.
Now to field hockey, the Owls extend their losing streak to 5 after a 1-0 loss against Lafayette out of the Patriot League on Sunday.
Number 10,
it was Senior Day Sunday at Howarth Field for the Owls, who recognized 9 players before the game. But it was Megan Ragusa who stayed in the spotlight. She had a record day with a season high of 9 saves. You could say that's one for each senior, but it just wasn't enough to salvage the game. That's the Owls freshman Julianne Kopech with a last-ditch effort. The Leopards win this one 1-0. The Owls are 0-3 against the Patriot League this season.
As for conference play, the Owls started off the season as Temple's hottest team, but the crew's taken a turn as of late, dropping its last 5 games and 7 of 8. This dry spell has dropped Temple down to 4th in the conference, and the team is at risk of missing the Big East playoffs entirely. Only the top 4 teams in the conference advance to the playoffs, and Temple can clinch this 4th seed with a win against UConn this Friday.
We're getting ready for a break, but on the other side, Temple Volleyball has just won 1 match since September 18th. We'll check in on a team looking for good news wherever they can find it.
And I'm OwlSports Update's Nick Neisted. Temple Fencing opened its season with hundreds of athletes right behind me here at the Leocourse Center. I'll take you to Temple Open when we come back in 90 seconds.
For the first time in 2 years, Temple hosted one of college fencing's biggest individual tournaments right here on campus. OwlSports Update's Nick Neistat is outside the Liacourus where the massive event went down this past weekend. Nick, what made this event so special?
Thanks, guys. Fencers from around the U.S. flocked to the Liacourus Center for this massive meet over the weekend. I'm talking hundreds of fencers. I got the chance to speak to 2 of Temple's fencers, as well as a head coach who participated in the meet herself as an Owl for 4 years. For the 41st year, Temple hosted one of the country's largest events in collegiate fencing, the Temple Open. The Liacourus Center welcomed approximately 500 fencers from nearly 30 schools in the Owl season opener. This included sophomore Emma Pincus.
This is probably one of my favorites.
3 of the 4 Temple fencers finishing in the top 15 were making their collegiate debut. For assistant coach and former Owl Tasia Ford, having a strong start is nothing new. Ford placed second in her first ever Temple Open in 2010.
It's been great to kind of be on both sides of being an athlete here, as well as being a coach. And I've really grown through my whole experience of being a part of Temple athletics.
Only 8 out of Temple's 19 fencers have ever experienced the Temple Open. This year, they get to start their season off the right way, here at the Liacourus Center. This day of fencing on Saturday was more of a marathon than a sprint. About 12 hours of competition with some big-time schools that include Florida, Northwestern, Penn State, and UNC.
I'm super pumped because we have a really big season and lots of meets scheduled, and the team is really amazing and well prepared, so I'm looking forward to us doing really well.
The Owls sent a record 6 fencers to the NCAA championship back in March. Their journey to repeat last year's historic season starts now with the Temple Open. There were some standout Owls over the weekend. Sophomore Zoe Turner was ranked 24th in the nation last season and did not disappoint here, taking silver in saber. Next Owl to watch is team captain Naomi Ross. The former All-American did not compete in the Open, but she led the team to its highest number of NCAA bids in program history last season. Lastly, freshman Cindy Long finished 8th out of 87th in epee. After 24 straight conference championships, the fencing team, which is one of Temple's best programs on campus, is hoping to get legendary head coach Nikki Frank another NCAA title in her 50th season. From the Liacourus Center, I'm Nick Neistat. Sage and Josh, back to you.
Just next door at Pearson McGonigal for volleyball. It wasn't all bad for the Owls against Wichita State on Sunday. That's a strong start from Kalis Bells. The Owls stayed on top in the first set. The team notched 10 blocks, 7 of which from Falanka Danielson. Grad student Mariah Bullock-Bossy had 15 kills and 13 digs. Patricia Zelenska had 32 assists, but it just wasn't enough. Without shock, the Shockers win this one 3-1. Hearing Josh and me talking about losses is getting old, so I'm going to pass the torch to OwlSports Update's Luke Milai to break down Temple's recent struggles. Hi, Luke.
Thanks, Sage. In the same month of October that gave us high temps in the 80s, Temple athletics has been ice cold. Maybe the shortened offseason for some of these sports that played last spring is taking its toll. Both soccer teams, field hockey and volleyball, and the football team are all on multi-game losing streaks. 3 of these teams have not seen the light of victory in over 20 days. The first team that stands out to me is men's soccer with a 2-10-2 record. Injuries have just decimated this team. The Owls are on pace for their lowest win total in 7 years when they went 2-14-2. Not only have wins been hard to come by, but so have goals. The team is averaging only .77 goals per game, the lowest since, you guessed it, that team from 7 years ago. Now on the court, the volleyball team, on a current 3-match losing streak, is just having one of those seasons. This team has lost 10 of its last 11 matches, something that's only happened once since Bakir Ganasharatnam took over as head coach in 2011. We'll see if any of these teams can get off the schneid, with field hockey along with men's and women's soccer all wrapping up their regular season in the next week. Now that I've been here to give you the cup is half empty approach, I'll send it back to Sage and Josh, where the cup is always at least half full.
Appreciate you shouldering the load, Luke. We need to take a break before some more positive news. On the other side, we have the changing of the tides on the Schuylkill.
That's right, we'll take you down to the river because crew and rowing are back.
As I said at the beginning of the show, a winless week for Temple Athletics. So for this week's Spotlight segment, we're talking Monstars, Owls of the past and the future.
As per usual, we want to talk basketball, and there's yet another new face on the roster. Aaron McKee has added a 6'1 junior, yes junior, to the roster as a walk-on guard. Ryan Sayers is from Owen J. Roberts High School, just an hour away, where he made 40 threes and took 25 charges his senior year. His resume doesn't stop there. Here at Temple, he has earned a 3.95 GPA studying risk management and insurance. An OwlSports update inside the nest, or an inside source, has played against him on the courts at 16th and Berks. Clearly, that's paid off.
Now let's stick with basketball because we have a potential Owl in the NBA sighting. As referred to by the G League TV Instagram, Temple's Russell Westbrook, a.k.a. Nate Pierre-Louis, has earned himself a G League contract with the South Bay Lakers. This summer, I had the pleasure of seeing Nate play and keep up with NBA stars like Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams at the Rumpf Classic.
Finally, let's circle back to football, where graduate student Michael Neese is getting attention for what he's doing on and off the gridiron. OwlSports Updates' Brielle Berry has more.
It's easy to forget the student and student-athlete when talking about big-time players in big-time sports. But there's a pretty good chance Michael Neese's 3.7 GPA is higher than yours. Neese is one of 176 players nationally up for the William V. Campbell Trophy, which goes to the nation's top scholar athlete for their on-field and off-field performance. The athlete must be a senior or graduate student in their final year of eligibility and have at least a 3.2 GPA. On the field, Pro Football Focus has Neese ranked as the 23rd best tackle in the nation throughout the team's first quarter of the season.
Well, Mike is playing his best football of his career and probably, playing the best up front, most consistent.
The on-field performance has to do with the amount of football I've seen and the amount of football I've played.
Off the field, Neese has his degree in mechanical engineering, and this past summer, he was able to land an internship with Boeing.
I was able to work with a next generation composites team out of St. Louis virtually during this summer. It means a lot to me that Coach Carey, Coach Tripodi were all very supportive of this, and they were able to work with me in some spots when I needed to get internship work done.
Reporting for OwlSports Update, I'm Brielle Berry.
Make sure to follow us at OwlSports Update on Instagram and Twitter, and tune into a brand new edition of Inside the Nest on Tuesday at 12 with Jackson Neal and Ray Dunn. Then OwlSports Update returns next Thursday with the always wonderful Luke Mealy and Lindsay Moppert.
It's just about time for me to break out my Jedi cloak and lightsaber for this Halloween. And hey, maybe the Force will be with the Temple teams this weekend.
Well, Sage, I was a Jedi a few times back in elementary school. This year I'll be a Peaky Blinder, but for the Owls, obviously not a banner week for Temple Athletics. Next time you see us, we'll have regular season basketball games to discuss. We'll catch you then.